Started out with a weird, not to market YA series, standard, I think. And no one really knows what they're doing. We're all making it up as we go along. I'm one of those people who can never write in a coffee shop. I have to cocoon myself. I turn all the lights really low. I put my headphones on. I like wrap myself up in stuff.
Hello, I'm author Hannah Lynn. Welcome to WACI, the show that brings you amazingly inspirational women authors that will hopefully inspire you and show you what you can achieve in writing. So remember, if you enjoy the show, please can you press like on there and subscribe, because that really helps me. And of course, you're going to love the show because today I have the most amazing guest, Eliza Raine. Eliza, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming. So, can you start by just telling us a little bit about your writing journey, how you've ended up being amazingly successful?
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, sure. I published my first book in 2018 or 2019. I've been writing, well, I've always told stories since I was a kid. I've always loved to tell stories, annoyed my brother with stories. But when I was at school, I was just maths and science were where the grades fell. In fact, I did really badly in English. And I ended up trying to fight it. I went and did computer animation and history and classics and all that kind of stuff, but ended up working in IT with the maths and science. And I did that for 10 years and I loved it. But we reached a point where I couldn't really go any further without managing a team. And I've never wanted to manage a team. I've always wanted to work for myself. I like no routine. I like not knowing what I'm doing the next day. I like to have control of what I'm up to. And the thought of just doing the same job for the next 30 years was kind of soul crushing. So my husband said, why don't we take it seriously? After I showed him a couple of podcasts and posts that I'd seen about self-publishing being a viable option, because I've never written in a way that I think suits the traditional market. I'm quite casual in the way I write, I suppose. And I love reading old school fantasy and all of the stuff I grew up reading, but it wasn't really how my writing came out. So I went down to 4 days a week in my job and started writing and self-publishing. Then I think I did that for about 6 months. Then I went down to 3 days a week at my job. And I was really careful that the days I took off from my normal job weren't Friday and Monday, so that I just do a long weekend. I took off the days in the middle so that I'd actually do proper work for myself on the days off. Then I took a 3 month sabbatical and got my limited company set up, got everything ready to go. And after doing 3 months where I'd actually worked, I knew I could trust myself to just sit in a room by myself and get on with it. I think I had 2 books out by then. I'd spent an enormous amount of money and made absolutely nothing. My husband took a leap of faith in me and said, quit your job and let's go for it properly. So the first year my limited company was operating, I think I recorded a loss of £14,000. Most of that was our savings and credit cards, while I learned ads, while I got audiobooks together, committed in full to the brand and what I was doing. And then I've just tweaked it as I've gone. So I started out, I've seen your interview with Cara. Yeah. Exactly the same. Started out with a weird, not to market YA series, standard, I think. It's the way. And then I wrote a children's series that is 12 and up, but I switched to American spelling because I was getting a lot of comments from my American readers that there were lots of typos and things. And I was like, that's cool. I think we'll just go with American spelling, as I know that's where most of my readers are. Then my third series, I was like, oh, we're going to have to go adult and we're going to have to go spicy, because that's where the fantasy romance sort of side was. So I started putting a lot more romance into my fantasy. And it was my third series, so my 8th book that did well, started to make money. And then now I'm on series 9. So, and I've stayed more within the adult fantasy romance since that landed, and that's what worked.
That's incredible. So how many books is that in total then? Series 9?
I've just released my 24th book, but my series are cliffhangers. So it's not really 24 books, it's 8 stories. because one book doesn't stand on its own in any of my series.
But the thing is so interesting because it said like it took 8 books until you were like, yes, I can do this. I can make money. And I think a lot of the time people see these, they hear about the one-hit wonders and the people who just make it, or the people who get there with their first or second book. And they don't realize that, if you want it, just don't give up. If you want it, just
definitely.
keep going. And I think you're just such a good example of doing that, which is incredible. So
I did have to tweak and tailor. I think if I'd done 8 books the same as the first one, I wouldn't have seen the results. But I think keep going and keep
learning,
pushing more towards what you want, and obviously don't write what you don't want ever. That's rubbish. That you may as well go back to the IT job if you're going to sit there and do something you don't want to do every day. But if you can find that sweet spot between writing what you want and what other people want, then obviously that's fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. I think there's so much to sort of take from that and be inspired by, I hope. What have you learned about yourself? Like, what's the most surprising thing? You said like you had to make sure you could trust yourself to work at home. Is there anything that surprised you that you've sort of learned on this journey?
I've learned loads, particularly in the last year and a half, where I've had a little bit less pressure and a bit more freedom. I've discovered a lot more about the way I work. I work with a writing coach, which I love, and that really has helped me. Like when you're a teenager and people go, "Oh, you'll stop sleeping in," and "Oh, you'll stop doing all your work last minute," and then when you're still doing it at 35, you're like, "Am I just really mature and a bit of a child?" Well, having an adult human coach tell you, no, that's just how you work. If you want to work all night and get up at midday, go for it. You don't have children and you work for yourself. If that's how you work best and that's how you produce your best work, that.
Oh, you've cut out for me now. Oh, you've cut out. No, I can hear you kind of going. No, out, no. Just like noise, just like frozen, like this. No, just sounds, just sounds, loads of sounds, sound. It's gonna come back, come back, come back. It's gonna come back. Yeah. So, what's the most surprising thing? You were talking about like teaching yourself and how you had to like have that discipline to write, but is there anything surprising that you've learned about yourself since you started doing this?
Yeah, I think one of the best things I've learned is how to undo a lot of what I'd already learned. So I work with a writing coach, and it's really fun because for years I just thought I was being a bit immature because as a kid you're told, oh, you'll grow out of sleeping in late, or you'll grow out of cramming all your work in last minute the night before. And it's weird how having someone tell you, no, that's how your brain works best. Keep doing that. It works really well, like just liberates you from all those rules. And like my coach will say to me, you are external pressure activates you, and it's not lazy or procrastinating or childish or whatever to wait until 2 weeks before the deadline and then work like a lunatic and not speak to anybody for 2 weeks and stay up till 3 in the morning and sleep until lunchtime. It's not affecting my life. I don't have children, and that's how I work best, and that's how I'm happiest. Having someone say, fine, be you, do that, is actually, it's a really nice place to be.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think finding what works for you, it has to be sustainable, right? What you're doing has to be sustainable, and you have to enjoy it, like not feel like, because I'm the opposite. I'm early morning. I like to be up at 5:30, and that's it. But don't ask me to work past 7 because I need to be in bed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'll have dinner and then I'll take my bottle of wine and I'll come out to my office at the bottom of the garden and I'll sit here till 1 a.m.
Oh, yeah, no, because the next day, I'd love that idea, but the next day I would just be useless, like nap like an old woman.
See, I sleep until 10 then, so it's all right.
I love naps.
This is the advantage. I am in a slightly different situation in that I don't have children, and that's not changing. So we as in me and my husband, we do have a bit more freedom on our hours. Also, he works for an American company, so both of us work evenings and both of us start later in the day. So that kind of, it's obviously circumstance allows. But after 10 years of working in office and corporate environments, it took me a really long time to accept that sitting in a chair from 9 till 5 in this work does not equal output. It does not equal anything you can use. There's no correlation really to that and what you produce. And I would say it's taken me 4 full years to really properly get my head around that
No,
and not feel guilty.
I think it's something businesses are looking into, actually. I don't know if this is podcast related, but I do know that they are becoming more aware that 9 o'clock isn't best for everybody. And if you want people
definitely
to
not.
be productive, you have to be working with what your strengths are. And so, whatever.
When you've got the most time and space and active part of your brain to do what you're doing, definitely.
Amazing. Okay, so obviously you're a late night worker. Are there any other weird, like ritual habit things that you like to do when it comes to your writing?
I'm one of those people who can never write in a coffee shop. I have to cocoon myself. I turn all the lights really low. I put my headphones on. I like wrap myself up in stuff, and then I have to listen to rain sounds, thunderstorms and stuff. Yeah, I have to like do the whole palaver. I can't just sit and type for 10 minutes and then I'm like
I love that. I love it. I would
it's slightly debilitating.
All wrapped up.
Yeah, I can't write on the move. So if I write a book, I need 6 weeks where I'm not doing anything.
Oh, amazing. Whereas I like writing on a train. That wouldn't be something for you, like train journeys or things.
I wish it would. And I wish we could travel more whilst I'm writing. And one of my huge goals now is to be writing less of the year. I actually enjoy the business side of my business a lot. So we're trying to carve out chunks of 6 weeks periodically through the year where I can write a book in one great big hit and then do something else for a month. And that's quite a new thing for me. I used to try to write 2,000 words a day every single day. And to be fair, I did used to write a lot more than I do now, mostly because I don't need to write quite as much these days. But I would love to write more. All writers would love to write more, right? That's the quest for more words is constant. But that's shifted a little bit for me now and more to enjoying the way I write more. And hopefully that produces better books. That's the plan.
Absolutely. It's like we said before, like you've got to find the balance of writing what you love writing. And that's when it really comes through, when you're having that sort of, I love doing this. And of course you can sit for however many hours that you need to locked away.
Yeah.
Love what you're doing.
Part of that is my memory too. I have a very bad short-term memory, so I don't remember what I wrote. So if it takes me 3 or 4 months to write a book on a slower pace, and then I take the weekend off, I come back Monday and my ice fae now have white skin and blue hair instead of blue skin and white hair. And honestly, it's terrible. And I write like books over the stories that build up in complexity and have lots of threads, and I forget them between doing things. So writing it all in one shorter burst is easier for me as well because I can keep more in my head in the right time, sort of thing. So that helps also.
No, I think that's a brilliant piece of advice because again, like there was that sort of, the longer you are suffering, the 200 words a night. I remember going to a course when I first started writing, and it's like, if you write 200 words a day, that's what you should be aiming for. And for some people, I get it, that might be the aim, but that doesn't work for everybody. Like you said, the number of times that people change hair color in mine, or I forget what day it was. Whereas if you are doing it in one hit, don't leave the computer. It is much, you've got it in front of you, but that's what works sort of for us in that way. I mean, it would necessarily work for everybody.
No, absolutely. And I can work over weekends because I don't have a family that need me at weekends or things like that. So it's absolutely circumstantial and what suits every person for sure.
You mentioned before that you sort of looked into self-publishing before deciding how to do it. You knew what you were going into, like you really set up your business well. Have you got any advice to sort of aspiring self-published authors, like tips to sort of get them started, what they should do maybe to help? Like I made endless mistakes. If there is some advice you could give people to stop them making errors, what would it be?
It's an enormous ecosystem, the self-publishing world, that I just had no idea existed. There are people who can help you with everything as you move through the process for sure. And most people in this community are so willing to help as well. So, I mean, it took me probably longer than it should have to ask for help from it took me a long time to find people to write with in company. I got quite lonely quite quickly. But from the business side of things, I wrote a really bad romantic comedy when I was at university, and I test published it under a pen name. I told nobody, and I used that to learn how to use all the software. I used that to learn how to use the formatting software, KDP, Facebook ads, promo stuff, and I just threw a load of stuff at this book that was complete nonsense.
So people are going to find it. Your
Down.
fans are going to find that, and then
I know it's been down. It was only up for about 2 months. It was only up for about 2 months. It didn't even have a plot. It was just a load of silly anecdotes from my mates that I grew up with. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But it meant that when I launched the book, I was actually hoping that it would sell, which was my first Eliza Raine Greek mythology branded book. I was more confident in it because I knew how to use, like, physically how to use the software and the tools that I was using. But I think there are a lot of courses. Do your research before you pay for courses. I am a big fan of paid courses if they are delivered well and they're from reputable sources. But I enjoy self-learning. Again, not everybody does. So I think just there's so much out there. The internet is your friend. And if you do know authors, reach out, because most are more than happy to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an amazing community that I didn't know existed until 2 years, 3 years into my into my publishing, not my writing, like that far sort of down. And then it was just like, oh, you're all here. This is what I need.
It's really nice. But also the freelancers you work with. I work with about 8 freelancers on the regular, and they're all over the world, men and women all over the world, working for themselves, all making a living out of this industry, and no one really knows what they're doing. We're all making it up as we go along, which means you can talk to them like you talk to a friend or a colleague. It's not got all that formality of the world that I'm used to. And it is much easier to say, oh no, I don't really understand that. Can you, like my friend says, tell me like I'm 5. And you don't have to feel silly saying that, because no one has a boss. No one has there's no gatekeepers. None of us really know what we're doing.
I think
and we're all working it out together.
Yeah, people are aware of how much there is to learn. Like everybody is aware that there's just so many things that some people will know and others won't. And together, maybe, like I said, you can get through it.
Definitely.
So I talked about how awesome you're doing, and you are, but success, like everything we've talked about today, it's really personal. Like it's a personal definition. So what is success to you? What does it look like to you being successful?
For me, I don't think success is ever still. I think it has changed every year, maybe even every 6 months that I've done this. First success was pay back the 14 grand I lost the first year. Second success was replace my old income at IBM. Third success would have been a 6-figure year. Next one is a 7-figure year. I think it can just move with you, and it completely depends. Like I know a lot of people, their goal is financial freedom or to take care of their family. I'm very lucky in that my husband really enjoys his job. I don't need to worry about retiring him, so my success can be quite personal. But I think like you say, it means something completely different to everybody. But I also think it changes with your situation. And I'm quite competitive, and I'm very quite a driven person. So as soon as the success barrier stands still for me, I'd lose interest. So I think constantly having moving goals is really, really motivational and really good fun. And I don't imagine it'll ever really stand still. But the long-term goal would be to travel the world, to not have to worry about making an income long enough to travel the world. That would be fantastic.
Nice. Do you have places on your bucket list immediately that are going to be the first places you head to?
I would really love to spend months moving across Canada. I think that would be very, very cool. I think that'd be really, really fun. We love traveling in America. There's loads of parts of America I'd love to see. And then there are other places that we haven't even touched yet that would be super cool. Neither of us have visited much of Asia at all. And to be able to do lots of it in one go would be really nice.
It's love it. Oh, right. So we are nearing the end, but I would like to ask you about your latest release, because we haven't heard about that yet. So I know you write in series, and you said it's book 9 of a series, or series 9? Series 9.
Series 9, book 1, series 9.
Book 1, series 9. So could you tell us, please, about that book 1 of series 9?
Yeah, sure. This one's called Of Blades and Wings. It's about a broken Ice Fae princess who has no magic, who thinks her sister's off to train to be a Valkyrie, but when the Valkyrie come to collect her to take her off to Featherblade Hall, they pick her instead.
Ooh.
And there is an
Oh, we've got little goosebumps then.
excellent. There's a disgraced Fire Fae combat trainer there who's obsessed with her. He's watching her all the time. She doesn't know why, but she knows she's connected to him, that he's very much a villain. And they end up needing each other for their end goals. They have this like really beautiful character art that I've just received of them. It's awesome.
Oh, wow, that is
So pretty.
absolutely beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. And when's that out? Is that out yet? Is that out now?
Yeah, it came out last week. Came out a week ago.
Congratulations. We are going to have the links to all Eliza's books down below or somewhere around wherever you're finding this podcast. So please check that out. Before you go there, I've got one last question, which is if you could be one of your characters for a day, which character would that be?
I think I'd be Poseidon's wife because I'm a scuba diver and she's a sea goddess, and that would just be really, really fun. Also, Poseidon's basically like an underwater version of The Witcher, and I could totally get on board with it.
Amazing. Thank you for that and explaining the reasons. I think that's important. Eliza, I am so grateful for you coming today. I really, really appreciate it. We did have some technical issues early, so I'm very grateful for Eliza for sticking through this with me. Please check out her books. They're there on the links and incredible reads. Also, if you like this episode, and again, as always, why wouldn't you? Like, come on, how inspiring is this? Can you make sure that you press that subscribe and that like button? Thank you very much. This was WACI.